Hi and welcome to the Book Bar, where everything bookish is on the menu. I'm Ann Jeanette Barr, and today we are going to do a mid-year book update review, and it's going to be off-grid style. Well, I did not bring fancy equipment out here for obvious reasons, or maybe it's not so obvious. I'm on an island, which means everything I brought over I had to carry. So I'm here in Southeast Alaska. I have been off-grid for a couple of days, so I haven't looked in the mirror, but I imagine I look like I've been off-grid for a couple of days. But I really wanted to get my mid-year review done, and I thought it would be nice to show you a little bit of this beautiful place that I live in. So I'll insert some footage here. It is hard to believe that it has already been half a year, but thank goodness that we're mid-year through 2021. I feel like we have some light at the end of the tunnel, and I am up to date on my goals that I know I will make. If you watched my last video, I totally failed one goal. I purchased some books, and one of my goals was not to purchase physical books in 2021, so go watch that video. But my other two goals were to read 50 books and to DNF something, because I'm really bad at not finishing. Once I start, I just feel obligated to finish. So I have read 25 books according to Goodreads, and I've actually read more than that. So I'm going to get into that first, because that is my life update, is that I have been doing some more work that is publishing and book related, and I've gotten to read 5 other books in addition to my 25 that are not published yet, because if you don't know anything about me yet, I am studying to be a literary agent, and so I am taking some courses, and my first course was about developmental editing, which is the high level stuff like plot and pacing and character and dialogue, and I'm actually going to do a video, post a video that I've already done after this one about the different types of editing, sorry, bugs, and explain that a little more. But I took a developmental editing course, and then I took a course about author contracts, and I have a few more courses to go before I get my certificate and can start looking for jobs as a literary agent. But after I took that developmental editing course, I decided I wanted to do some more developmental editing. I really enjoyed it, and it is part of the job of an agent. And so I put the word out for some volunteers to let me go away. No CMs. I put the word out for some volunteers to let me do edits on their books for free. And I got back a lot of replies. I chose 5 to do, 3 for full developmental edits and 2 for critiques. So I finished those now, and so I got to read 5 really great books that I can't tell you about. But I did read more than just 25, and I feel pretty good about the 25 that I did read, and I'm going to go through what they were very briefly and tell you which ones I have videos of a more full synopsis on. I took screenshots of my Goodreads before this so that I would be able to remember them. I obviously do not have them on hand, but let me move a little bit so that I can put them on the screen. Okay, I actually just decided standing would be better than sitting down because I have a better place to put my camera. So I'm having some Earl Grey tea today. It's a little bit of a gray day, as usual, in Southeast Alaska. and it looks like it may be sunny later, but this seemed like mood appropriate for this morning. And I have screenshots of my Goodreads because I knew I would be off-grid doing this. And I'm just going to start from the beginning and tell you first how many adult books I read versus children's books, and then go through them quickly. Okay, it looks like I have read 12 children's books, and so the rest are all adult. And 12 is a pretty typical number for me. I have 4 children. I homeschool, so they are 12 chapter books, like more difficult ones that I had to read to them or that I read to see which children they were appropriate for. So I'm not actually going to go through all of the 12 children's books in detail. I do have a few videos about the children's books I've read recently, and I will link to those. But the adult books, my very first book of the year was Rebecca. I made a video all about Rebecca and how much I loved it. I said in that video that it was a new favorite, and I still feel that way. I also talked about the differences between the book and the new movie that came out. So check that one out if you have not already. The next was Are Women Human?, which was a collection of essays by Dorothy Sayers. And that was a 5-star read. It was real short. I really enjoyed her satirical and sarcastic way of talking about gender differences. And then I read the Stolen Kingdom series, which is 4 books by Bethany Atazadeh. I also did a video dedicated to that series, which I will link. It was great. It's a fairy tale retelling. It's technically YA, but I read it for myself, not for my kids. And then I read a couple of writing books. I read The Editor's Guide to Working with Authors, and I read, fast forwarding, How to Be Your Own Literary Agent. I read those for my courses, and I enjoyed them both. I would highly recommend them. I will put those books in the description box below. And then I read To the Bright Edge of the World by Eowyn Ivey, and this was another of my new favorite books that I did a dedicated review to, also outside. So 2 outside videos here on this channel. And it's by an Alaskan author about an exploration expedition in Alaska at the turn of the century, I think. I'm trying to remember now. No, it was 18-something. And it's fiction, but it was based on some real expeditions. And it has magical realism and just some really beautiful prose. I really enjoyed all the aspects of that. It's also an epistolary novel, still can't say it, which means it is written in the form of letters and newspaper articles and various things rather than straightforward narration. So it was really nice to get something like that in amongst all the other types of things that I read. And I read Tequila Mockingbird, which is cocktails with a literary twist, and I did a video on that just recently, all about fun cocktails that you can pair with books for either a book club or just for fun. Yeah, it was a fun video to make, and I got to make some cocktails for the first time and do a pretty horrible job of it, but check that one out. And then I did a reread of Northanger Abbey, which is such a fun novel. And it was also exciting to do because it's another satire. It's kind of makes fun of Gothic novels, and Gothic novels are kind of the there's a big house and it's mysterious and everything is kind of creepy and there might be ghosts, that kind of feel is a very specific type of novel. And Jane Austen thought that they were kind of silly. And so she wrote this book, Northanger Abbey, about a girl who reads too many novels of that type and then kind of lets her imagination get her in trouble. So I read it part to my 13-year-old son, and he got some of the humor, but he was tired of it pretty fast. So we pushed through to 3/4, and then he was like, "I'm good, Mom. I don't really care." So I finished it on my own and loved it as much the second time around. And let's see, I read some more kids' books. Then I read The Dark Tower and Other Stories by C.S. Lewis, which is a fascinating collection of short stories that C.S. Lewis did not publish in his lifetime. And the preface talks about how he didn't leave instructions for his works that anyone found after he passed. And I think it was his brother basically heaped them in the yard and was ready to just burn them in a bonfire. And one of his friends swooped in and was like, wait, you're throwing away the writings of C.S. Lewis? No, and grabbed them. And then some of them that kind of fit on a theme, he published in this volume called The Dark Tower. And there is a story, the longest story is named The Dark Tower. Hi, buddy. I have a puppy here with me. And these stories feel different than a lot of his other works, and there's a little bit of information about each, kind of notes about each, and it was obvious that these were kind of writing exercises that he did and offered to his group, the Inklings, and offered to some friends as critiques, just to try out other styles, and some of them are like more horror style or dark fantasy, and some of them are kind of disturbing, like I don't know. I mean, he's written several. I've read all of C.S. Lewis's fiction now that I've read this book, and some of them are kind of dark. Like the Screwtape Letters is kind of dark and weird, but it has a purpose. It's allegorical, and it's very obvious to see what's going on in the book, like it or leave it. And then he has some other things like Till We Are Faces, which are like mythological retellings, which are really interesting, and The Great Divorce as well. And they're all. Besides Narnia, they're all more serious and more darker. But these take the cake. So The Dark Tower, especially, is basically about, we don't really know because the book doesn't finish. It's just hard to read an incomplete novel. About maybe an alternate dimension, like a multiverse sort of situation, and there are doppelgangers to people here in that multiverse, and occasionally someone crosses over accidentally or on purpose. But in that world, there are some like kind of creepy, really creepy, scary things that happen to people. I don't want to give anything away, and it's so short that it would be easy to. But I will tell you that I definitely had dreams. Like it made me have not necessarily nightmares, but some like spooky dreams. Dobby, come. My dog is foraging in the undergrowth. Come on, Bubs. Come on. Anyway, yeah, it was interesting. It was a different side of C.S. Lewis. I read some reviews that basically said, I don't think he wrote this, and I think he did. I just think that there's a reason that he published some things and didn't publish others. So it's also an interesting thought exercise on should we ever see the things that authors didn't publish. So, let's see. What else did I read after The Dark Tower? The Song of Hiawatha is by Longfellow. It's an epic poem, and I DNF'd it. So I'll make a video. I've DNF'd a couple of things this year, and I got through that one long enough that I did, like, deep enough into it that I did put it on my read list. Counted it toward my 25. I did not DNF it because I hated it. I DNF'd it because as much as I like poetry, and I have a video about that, I felt like I got the gist. I kind of felt like, this is great. I understand why this is important, and it's kind of an origin story, and he based it on things that he heard and experienced from Indigenous Americans, and so it has a lot of elements of Indigenous American mythology and origin story and kind of creation myth, as well as some really cool insertions of lots of vocabulary in, and I can't remember now, I'll have to go back and put it on the screen, which Native American tribe he based the language off of. It doesn't explicitly say in the poem, but I did look it up. Can't remember. However, I just got to the point in this epic poem where it's kind of episodes, and I had read enough of the episodes that I felt like I could check it off my list of, okay, I've read this book. So I DNF'd that one, partially just because I made a goal to DNF something, and it was like, this is a good one to DNF. What else have I read? So, looking through, that's all on my Goodreads. So the last one of my 25 is this one that I read while I was here. So this is Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I brought this with me because I had a feeling that my oldest son was going to finish the book that he brought for himself and need something else to read. And this was one that I planned on passing off to him if I liked it and thought he would like it. So I read it and he read it on this little trip of ours. And he says 4 out of 5 stars. He enjoyed it. I think 3.5 out of 4. It did not grab me the way I hoped it would. I think that Neil deGrasse Tyson is beloved in the science community for a reason, and he is obviously enthusiastic about these subjects, and he has a lot to say, and he understands what he's saying. I think as a science writer, I've read more compelling voices, and I think what I was hoping for in this book was something that would appeal to me as a layperson, teach me a lot of things that I didn't know, but mostly just like fan the flame to get me interested in this subject. And I felt more like I took a mini course in astrophysics, which, to be fair, it says it's astrophysics for people in a hurry, and the introduction says that like it's for people who really want to know about astrophysics but don't have time to take a course. So I think he accomplished what he meant to accomplish, but it didn't accomplish what I wanted it to accomplish. So maybe 3.5 isn't quite fair, but that's how I feel about it. The subjects that he covers are just kind of, they're not random, but they're not really in order. I'm going to put my cup down here. They're not really ordered the way I would have ordered them. So he does start at the beginning with the Big Bang, greatest story ever told, and then the next chapter is On Earth as It Is in the Heavens, and then Let There Be Light. And so he has titles that reflect that he's more or less talking about from the beginning of history of the universe that we know or think until now. But then he kind of breaks down by subject, like there's a chapter on dark matter, and there's a chapter on dark energy. There's a chapter on exoplanets. So I found lots of individual components of this interesting. I really enjoyed him talking about Einstein and Einstein's contributions to science, and also like theoretical physics in general. I really enjoyed that. But it made me want to go and read a biography about Einstein rather than go and read more about theoretical physics or read more about lambda and the universal constant and things like that he covers. So it's a very short book. I was able to get through it, but I don't feel excited to recommend this to people, I guess. That being said, my 13-and-a-half-year-old who loves science topics, loves narrative nonfiction, will read anything, got through it really fast, and I was a little bit worried that some of it would be too dry and technical to hold his interest, and he had no problem. So it's also probably an instance of there are minds that are not mine who would love this book. My husband would probably enjoy it, but I read a few little snippets to him, and he basically said, but I already knew that. So I'm not sure if this book would maybe be, this is my conclusion. This book is probably really great for a science-minded person for whom astrophysics is not their area of expertise. So they're fine reading, dry and technical when they want to know something, but they don't know a lot about astrophysics and they just want kind of a primer. That would be this book. I think for people who are more creative and enjoy literary style narrative like me, even if you have a high level of reading comprehension and an interest in science, this isn't going to be enough of a narrative style to be your favorite book. Okay, cutting in here to say I had a little bit more time to think about this book, and I decided I am actually going to give it a full 4 stars. I think the frustrating part was just that there were so many times where I wished he would have said more or less on subjects. Like, I would have written it a lot differently. I'm also not an astrophysicist, by the way. But I can't stop thinking about several of the chapters, especially every time he talked about light. Just found it was really fascinating, and dark matter and dark energy, even spheres. Anyway, a book that's making me think this much deserves 4 stars, so I take it back. So there's my assessment of this one which was my 25th book on Goodreads, and that is my year so far. The other personal update that I wanted to tell you guys in this video is that I took on another job, and I am working for a company called Blue Pen, and it is an editing and design company that works with both traditionally published authors, people who hope to be traditionally published, and people who want to self-publish, and we help connect them to editors and designers and marketers and things like that, whatever they need, someone to go over their query letter, someone to help them to coach them through self-publishing or approaching agents or whatever it is. There's a lot of different services, and my role is kind of an author liaison, helping the authors decide which services they need, and then also making sure that I coordinate with all of our contracted experts to get them back their materials when they're done with them. It's been really fun, and it has taken up some of my time to do the training, and that impacted how many YouTube videos that I have made in the last little bit. But I love this opportunity to continue working with writers and with books in a different sort of setting. So you'll be hearing more about that. Like I said, I'm going to make a video about editing, and I did make a video about editing. I'm putting it up next after this one. But if you have any questions for me in the comments about making books, I do plan on continuing to do writer's hours every once in a while, and I'm happy to answer questions. And I'll leave links to the company that I'm working for now as well. And I look forward to doing some more book reviews really soon. I'm also in the middle of a book that I'm reading with another booktuber, and that will be up before long, I hope. I'm reading it pretty quickly. It's very engaging. So look forward to that. And I hope that you're having a wonderful summer. Leave me a comment and let me know what your current beach read is. There's a beach right there. What you are enjoying this summer. And as always, tell me what's in your cup.